Dear students, welcome to another new lecture. In this session, I will explain how a server works internally, how it processes requests and sends response back to clients. Let's start with an example. Imagine you are running a Node.js project on port 3000 and a Python project on port 4000 on your local machine. Now let's also imagine that both of these projects are accessible from outside your local machine. You might be wondering, how is that possible? Well, let's not dive into the technical details just yet. Just picture it for now. If a client sends a request to either the Node.js or Python project, the server processes the request and responds to the client. This means your project is live and people around the world can access it. Sounds simple and interesting, right? But in reality, it is not that easy. If our scenario were true, we would still have a few challenges. For one, we need to keep our local machine running 24/7, which could be costly and cumbersome. That's where cloud providers like AWS or Azure or Google Cloud or DigitalOcean and others come in. This cloud service offers a range of features, and one of the most important is cloud machine or servers. Let's say we launched a cloud machine on AWS and it assigned an IP address like 10.5.10.3. Now imagine Node.js is running on port 3000 and Python on port 4000 on that cloud machine. What happens if a client sends a request to the IP address 10.5.10.3? Well, without any configuration, nothing happens because the cloud machine does not know what to do with the request. This is where Nginx comes into play. Nginx is a web server that runs by default on port 80. It is open source and provides various services such as serving static content, load balancing, HTTP caching, and more. One key feature of Nginx is reverse proxy functionality. Now let me explain what reverse proxy is. In simple terms, when Nginx receives a request, it can forward that request to another server or service or static content. This is called reverse proxy forwarding. Let's go back to our previous scenario. A client sent a request to 10.5.10.3 port 80. Nginx will receive that request because it is running on port 80. We then configure Nginx to forward request to port 3000. This means when a request comes to Nginx, it will be forwarded to Node.js project running on port 3000. Node.js will process the request, response back to Nginx, and finally, Nginx will send the response back to the client. Easy, right? But what if we want the request to go to the Python instead? Well, we just configure Nginx to forward the request to port 4000 where the Python project is running. Nginx will handle everything from there. Now let's make it a bit more interesting. Imagine we purchase two domains, nodejs.com for Node.js project and python.com for the Python project. We can then set up two Nginx configuration, one for Node.js and one for Python. In the Node.js, Nginx configuration will configure nodejs.com and set the reverse proxy to forward the request to port 3000. In the Python, Nginx configuration will configure python.com and set the reverse proxy to forward request to port 4000. Now if a client sends a request to nodejs.com, the request will first reach Nginx, which will forward it to the Node.js project. Node.js will process the request and Nginx will send the response back to the client. Similarly, if a client sends a request to python.com, the request will first reach Nginx, which will forward it to the Python project. Python will process the request and Nginx will return the response to the client. And that's the overall flow of the server request response lifecycle. I hope this lecture has helped you understand how server processes request and send response back to client. How Nginx plays a crucial role managing this process. That's all for the lecture. See you in the next video.